on your end? Do a mic test.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. And we've got some common seller lead questions, objections, and inquiries. We're on part 3 right now of putting together some of these common and frequently asked questions and objections. Do you have a list compiled that you can fire off? And we will go through each one on the session and get this pushed out to the network. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have some stuff on a list here. The first one that I got is you want to steal my property. I mean, some sellers just kind of assume, especially when they find out you're an investor, that you're just gonna like lowball, right? Or that you'll get that too. Are you just gonna lowball?
Got it. Okay, hold on one second. Are you trying to steal my property? All right. Fire off another one.
Okay. I don't want a realtor.
I don't want a realtor. All right. I like hearing that one. Okay, what else?
Can't show the property. Like they live out of state or live too far away or don't have a car or something like that.
That's another good one. All right. Keep it going.
I like my tenants. I don't want to kick them out. So it's like a rental, and they don't want to sell. They don't want to disturb the tenants.
Okay.
Okay. That's personal, or I don't want to answer that. It usually comes up on like the mortgage or free and clear or something like that, but I mean it can even come up on the address.
Okay, what else?
Right. Make me an offer.
Okay.
Okay. Who do you work for? What company are you from?
Okay.
Okay, that's all I got on my list here, but I'm feeling we could come up with some more.
Yeah, definitely. We'll do an open, for those of you that are on the session, common questions, objections, inquiries. You might want to adjust your mic, move it up a little bit. Common questions, feedback, objections that you'll get from your sellers over the phone. How do you get my address is a good one. How do you get my phone number is another one. You're doing the Darth Vader on us again, buddy. You got to move that mic.
No, I just did.
How'd you get my phone number? How'd you get my address? Let's see. Are you calling from a call center, right? Are you calling from a call center? There's a lot of background noise. Okay. What else? Can you send me proof of funding? Talk to my attorney, brother, cousin, ... Let's see, what else? Any other objections? Bill, I'm going to unmute you. Any other objections that we might have missed or, commonly gets asked, especially in the day-to-day conversation on the initial seller phone call?
Well, are you talking about just generally, or lease options, or wholesaling?
Just generally in the more in the wholesaling category.
Okay. Yeah, those are pretty much the ones that come up. I'm trying to think of, anything else that would come up. How do I know that you're going to actually perform and not waste my time?
Okay. Give me a second here.
the reason why I bring that up, Gil, is believe it or not, you talk to some of these sellers and they go, look, we've had 4 investors look at the property or give us a call and nobody's called us back.
Talk to. No one has gotten back to us. Okay. All right, so let's, I'll put you on mute here, Bill, minimize the echo in the background. Welcome to those that just joined us. If you're hopping on this session, we are going through a couple of frequently asked objections, questions, inquiries on the initial seller call. Now, when it's your first time hearing these objections, okay, my default response to an objection or a question, especially if I don't know the answer to it, is, I'll let them know, hey, that's a great question. I'm taking, I'll definitely take note of that, find out, and I'll get back to you with a more accurate answer. Is that okay? Right? Or I'll get back to you and let me find out more information regarding that, regarding your question or your inquiry, and let me see if I can go figure that out, or ask somebody, get an answer there for you, or more information, right? And for common objections, though, you can drill these. You can flashcard them, run them through your mind. You can record these questions and the responses so that you get to a point where it rolls off your tongue. You can respond, in a timely manner where there isn't that awkward silence where the homeowner or the seller misinterprets it as you being shady, insincere, or not serious about performing, or the actual decision maker on the transaction, right? So the quicker you respond, the more comfortable this rolls off your tongue, the better your chances at converting that lead and continuing to move forward in the conversation. Mike, I see you live on the session. If you're available at 10 o'clock, let me go ahead and give you a call. I got an interesting game plan for you, my friend. It's going to encompass or include real estate training, seller conversations, and building out an online market, all your online marketing, business funnels, and lead generation. So fill me in, or in the GoToWebinar control panel if you are available at 10 o'clock. That way we can book that slot there for you. All right. So Steve, let's go through these one by one. Are you trying to steal my property? How are you guys responding to this particular objection or question? Right. You're going to get all sorts of funky objections. There's a number of ways to respond to these. There's no right or wrong answer. This isn't the end all and be all. But at the same time, it is a good guide and something for you to start as a foundation as you get comfortable, improve your skill set in talking to sellers. So Steve, how do you guys address this? Steve, are you trying to steal my property?
No, I'm not interested in making an offer that you wouldn't accept or would offend you. What I am interested is making an all-cash offer, and taking care of all the closing expenses. If I was going to make an offer like that, what would be the best price, that you would be happy selling at?
Fair offer and a number we can both agree on. What was that last line?
I don't know.
I'm interested in making an offer and a number we can both agree on. Fill in the blanks. Are we dot?
I'm interested in making an all-cash offer and taking care of the closing costs. What's the best price that you would be happy selling?
Cover closing costs. What is the best price you'd be happy to sell the property to me for? All right. Okay. Bill, any quick response in addition to this one? Are you trying to steal my property, Bill?
Gil, would you like me to steal your property?
All right. And so you let that sink in a little bit, right? You wait a second or two. How do you move forward once you counter or you respond with that question?
Well, of course, answer it.
No, not at all. I mean, you know, I just got a letter in the mail and wanted to see what you guys were about.
Well, you know, so you wouldn't like us to steal your property then?
No, you know, we haven't even thought about it's really, this is the first time we thought about selling since we got the letter. But
Okay,
obviously I don't want you to steal my property.
all right, well, neither do we, Gil. We're not interested in stealing your property. That wouldn't be, you know, a fair transaction for you or us. So here's what we'd like to do. What we'd like to do is make a fair and equitable offer that would be acceptable to both you and us, you know, and we, you know, we do need to make a profit on the transaction. You don't have any problem with us making a fair profit on the transaction, do you?
You know, as long as it's, you know, a little bit of a profit. I'm a business owner myself. I understand how the game works. So, you know, as long as it's not an exorbitant amount, you know, the property's paid off free and clear, and you know, this is kind of like our nest egg and retirement fund, if you can put it that way.
Well, what we'd like to do, Gil, is we'd like to find out some additional information about the property, and then we can make a decision and come in with a fair offer that perhaps would be acceptable to both you and our company. Is it okay to ask you a few questions?
Nice. It's now a good time, right? So you, again, the format is you answer the question, you end with a question. He who asks the questions in the conversation tends to be the one in control of the conversation. You're steering the conversation in the direction you want it to go. You're able to focus on the topics that are relevant, and you can also control the environment or the overall vibe of that particular phone call. If you guys have other suggestions on how you're responding to some of these objections, go ahead and type it in. That way we can add it here onto our list of quick responses. Steve, I don't want a realtor. You know, I got your letter here. We're not interested in selling a property, buddy.
No, I'm not a realtor. I'm looking to buy the property.
All right. I do also add on here, are you looking for a realtor?
Yeah. Or I'll usually follow up with, you know, are you interested in selling the property? That's usually on the front end.
Even interested in selling the property.
I'm looking to buy.
Okay,
are you interested
that one's a pretty
in selling?
straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, no, it's a duplicate on there. Pretty straightforward objection, nothing crazy there, right? Can't show the property, we live too far away, too busy, or we live out of state. This is something you guys get every day, especially now that we have you in multiple virtual markets. How do you respond, and how do your guys respond to this inquiry right here?
No problem. You know, is there a family member or somebody nearby that can show the property?
Is there a family member or a friend who can show the property? Okay. Again, pretty straightforward. But Bill, would you respond to this question any differently, or another transition statement that you'd use? We can't show the property, Bill. We just live too far away. We're too busy, and we live out of state.
Well, same thing that Steve said. I said, well, do you folks have any friends or relatives in the area that might have a key that could meet us at the property and show it to us? And if so, I don't want to play, three-way calling. If they're willing to cooperate that way, I want to be able to get that person's name and contact number so we can set up an appointment directly. It saves a ton of time, and it's a lot easier if it's somebody local. You can just meet them out there and take care of business. And usually that works out. I mean, if they're not available to show the property and they're not willing to cooperate, then all you can do is put it on your follow-up sheet and try again later on. But usually they have somebody locally, a neighbor, a friend in the area, a relative, somebody that's got a key that can allow you to access the property.
Alrighty. Okay. We love our tenants, Steve. We just love our tenants. We don't want them disturbed. and we prefer if they could stay in the property. So, yeah, I don't know if you're one of those investors that, tears down the property and puts it back on the market, or you guys do like a quick rehab on it. This house is dated, but it's been in the family, and these guys have, this family has been renting for us for almost 30 years now. So, they got to stay in the property.
Yeah, that's not a problem. I mean, we've purchased houses before where we kept the tenants in place, so that's totally possible. I mean, they sound like great tenants. Why would you even be interested in selling the property?
Even be interested? How would you even consider selling the property? We have purchased properties for and can keep the tenants in place. I'm glad you mentioned that, so that I can note it for this particular property. Why would you even sell, considering you have great tenants? Nice one, nice one. All right, so we'll keep that one moving forward there. Again, pretty straightforward. If anybody else has any other ways to respond to that objection, go ahead and type it in the GoToWebinar control panel. Bill, if there's something you wanted to add, type it in the chat line so I can unmute you there. Steve, the information you're asking is too personal. You're asking me for the property address. You're the one that sent me the letter. I thought you already knew the house or had seen the property. Well, why all the questions?
Yeah, I mean, I do have the address here, but we sent out more than one letter. Not a bunch, but a few. So I just need to know which one we're talking about here. Are you even interested in selling the property?
I do have the address. However, we have sent out more than one letter. We are interested in purchasing a property in that area. Okay. What was the last question?
Oh, are you even interested in selling?
Are you even interested?
So I'd like to get an answer to that before I even start asking the questions or ask permission to ask questions,
Got it.
I spent 10 minutes with
any...
too many people that weren't interested in selling.
Gosh, that makes sense. Lesson learned, right?
Yeah.
With any questions about, this information's too personal, again, if you notice in the introduction or in the opening minutes of the conversation, I like to set the right expectations, or at least set a few expectations, so that the seller is more open to the line of questions that I have, and I avoid getting objections. And I can do this by setting up certain expectations on the front end of the conversation. So when a seller calls, right, I do let them know, hey, Steve, thanks for calling us back. We did send out a couple letters in the area. I am looking at purchasing a property in that particular neighborhood or zip code. Now, I'm not in front of my work desk, or my I'm not in the office right now. Is there and I am out and about, but I'm looking for a property here in the next 30 days or less. Is now a good time for you? Can I ask you a few questions? Is that okay with you? Right. So when I let them know that I'm not in front of my office, I'm out and about, or just the fact that I don't have all the information in front of me right now. I'm not in front of my computer where I have my entire list open. Okay, then I avoid even getting asked those other questions, right? And if they do ask it, then I'll politely remind them, oh, well, like I mentioned earlier, Steve, I'm out and about right now. I'm at the drive-thru with the kids. I'm at the grocery, wherever you are, at the gym. Doesn't matter. Just say exactly where you are. The whole point is to establish the fact that you're not in front of the actual address and you don't have the property information handy, right? And if they start to kind of get hostile or aggressive with you, I let them know, well, Steve, it sounds like I've caught you at a bad time. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm out and about, and I did ask if I could find out more about the property. Maybe you can save my phone number here and call me back when it's a better time for you. Right? So I allow the homeowner or the lead to get off the phone or to kind of check themselves. Maybe they don't realize that, the conversation is starting to get a little bit heated. I don't know, with most sellers, that is not their intention. You know what I mean? I can understand it might be a little bit frustrating. Maybe they've gotten hundreds of letters or they've been having a rough day. So I try not to take it personally. But at the same time, you don't want to be a doormat and just take that kind of verbal abuse. Again, you got to check the person you're talking with, give them an opportunity to reset their attitude and environment, and then continue with your questioning. All right. Now, let me see here. There we go. Bill here is another follow-up question with regards to the objection about tenants. Bill, it looks like you take the line of question a little bit further by asking, or here's how you respond, right? The objection is, we love our tenants, we would want them to stay, or we prefer or would only sell if they could continue living in the home. So Bill says, we do buy properties and tenants with tenants in place. Can you tell me more about the tenants and what your relationship with the tenants is? I want a better understanding of the current situation, and so how long have you known them? Right? Get them talking about it, and it's somewhat drilling deep. Bill, did you want to add on to that a little bit as well, or?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes what you've got is there's a couple of dynamics going on sometimes. Number one, it might be a relative, a cousin, a nephew, some relative. That may be the reason why, and or just a long-term friend. But Gil, one of the things that I found after I get a little bit more information is when we get a little bit deeper into the conversation and I explain to them that on investment properties, the value is directly tied to the amount of income that the property can generate. And if they're sitting on $800 a month and the market's $1,150, then I'm not going to be able to raise the rent on that tenant to $1,150. I mean, they're going to move out. So if I can only get $800 a month in income, then I'm going to have to offer substantially less in order for me to be able to afford to even buy the property. So we I find that information out, and then I make an offer, and when I make the offer, I explain that to them, and then we find out how serious they are about that tenant staying in that property after all. Because if we had a duplex like that, and the lady wanted to have this friend of hers stay on the other side of the duplex, but she was paying like 50% less than market, and we explained to her that based on the rent that was being generated there, we had to offer her almost $40,000 less than she probably could have gotten with somebody in there paying full rent. All of a sudden that person wasn't as good as a friend as she initially indicated. All of a sudden there was a divorce on the horizon pretty quickly when she realized she was going to lose about 30 grand because of her friend being in the property. So sometimes you got to bring people back to the real world and let them know that you'll be happy to let their friend stay in there, but you can only pay them based on the amount of income the property generates. And if they're only paying 50% of what they should pay, then you can't pay more than that based on the income it generates. So sometimes we do that. So that's one of the other things to take a look at. Back to you.
Right? I mean, why is it so important that the tenants stay in there? Is that is that a real hot spot for the seller? Maybe the person you're talking to is the property owner. The real decision maker are the people living in the property. All right, family member, relative. It's their dad. It's their cousin. Uncle. Across multiple seller situations where a property has been passed on to the next generation, and let's say you have siblings, right? Let's call them Amy and Bob, right? So Amy and Bob inherited the property as part of Bob inheriting the property and giving him majority ownership of the property, he is required to take care of his sister, or he made a promise to his to the family that he would he would allow the sister to live in there at a discounted rate, right, or something. Try to find out, because this is important. It could be very important to the situation or the scenario or to the sellers that you're dealing with, right? Or it might be a case of, hey, they think their property is worth X amount, and they may have drastically undervalued the property. And if they find out, like Bill said, well, in reality, the house is actually worth X amount, which is, I would say, considerably much more than what you had initially thought, Bill. And so knowing that the house is worth a lot more, or you could get, you guys could actually transition and be in a better financial situation. Is that something, now would you guys consider selling, or would you guys be open to having a conversation and, possibly letting me see the property, right? So it gives clues as to the true motivation. And again, these initial objections that you get on the front end, they're kind of like surface level irritations. It's just a bit of a scratch. The true motivation, true itch, like somebody pointed out here in the comments section, is actually well underneath the surface layer. That's what actually matters to them. They'll ask these surface level objections to throw you off, but really at the end of the day, there's actually something more important to them. So don't give up on these initial or surface level objections, right? Steve, I got your letter in the mail. You said you wanted to buy me an offer.
Yeah, I'd love to make an offer. The more information that I have, the better offer I can make. Is it alright if I ask you some questions about the property?
I'd love to make you a fair offer. The more information I have, the better the offer I can make, right? Is now a good time? And is it okay for me to ask a few questions? Just about the condition of the home. Has it been updated recently, or are there any major repairs? Nothing crazy, I just want to get an idea of somewhat what we're working with. And again, I just want to be able to make you a good offer, Steve, something that you guys can take seriously. And I don't want to assume that the house is something that needs to be torn down when it was updated a few years ago, if that makes sense, right? And you kind of like joke around, wait to see how they respond to that, to see if they're in a good mood, bad mood, if you need to build rapport, or if you can continue with your pre-screening questions, right? Now, Steve, I can appreciate you want more information, so yeah, you can ask me a few things right now. But before you do so, who do you work for? Are you a company? What's your real estate brokerage?
Yeah, I mean, it's just me and my friend, so we're just kind of like a mom and pop operation.
Just myself and a buddy, relative, partner. We're more of a mom and pop type of operation. We view the properties ourselves. And these are properties for rental and investment purposes. We started using that exact line, and we rolled that out to everybody that's on in our call center in our network. We're more of a mom and pop type of operation. Most people can relate to that, and majority of the group that we have, right? You guys are more of a mom and type operation. Most people would think, especially the newer wholesalers, Birdogs, and investors, they get hung up on trying to create this big business company professional looking type of branding or image, right? Now there's certain pros and cons to that, but you got to pick and choose your battles, right? And we have found that it's easier to relate and to convert a lead, when they know up front that you're more of a mom and pop type of operation. We're not a very big business. I wish we had hundreds of properties or millions and millions upon dollars to spend. And I have these exact statements and lines that I'll use with the seller again to create rapport, build trust, and get them to open up. But that line has been very helpful for us. We're more of a mom and pop type of operation, right? Or are you looking to deal with a big company? One of those big franchises. Is that what you're looking for, right? And I'll ask them that, and I'm looking for a no, and chances are that's what they're going to respond with, right? But again, I want to understand what they're looking for, make sure this is a seller that I can continue to move forward, and he cancels out, or I'm able to help them come to the conclusion that we are their best option, especially if that's that is the actual scenario and case, right? Bill has one on here, just make me an offer. And he says, well, I just pulled $2 out of my pocket. Will that do? Right? And again, these are transition line statements and responses that, pick and choose your battles. Use what is comfortable for you. This is used in a way that's more lighthearted. Right? Again, you want to get them to crack up, lower their boundaries, and see what they say, right? But please make sure you're able to convey that funniness or aloofness, and you're not serious about that $2 cash offer that you just pulled out of your wallet. Claude Diamond is notorious for those types of responses, and they work. Right? They work. There is a thought process and a method to it. So yes, they do actually work, to somebody that's typing here. How do you ask about their mortgage balance? Says Lauren. I've been asking if there's a mortgage, but not comfortable asking the amount. All right, we will definitely cover and address that one. I think, do we have the mortgage number? No, we don't have that one yet. We'll add that here towards the end, Lauren, and we'll make sure we give you a couple of responses to that one. Right? It sounds like you are you're already